Welcome back to our medicine study channel. Today's topic is digestion system. The digestive system is composed of a series of organs that work together to process food, extract nutrients, and eliminate waste. Here's an overview of the digestive system. Mouth. The digestive process begins in the mouth, where food is taken in, chewed, and mixed with saliva. Saliva contains enzymes that initiate the breakdown of carbohydrates. The tongue helps in swallowing food and pushing it to the back of the throat. The mouth, also known as the oral cavity, is the initial part of the digestive system where the process of digestion begins. It is responsible for several important functions related to digestion, speech, and respiration. Here's an overview of the anatomy of the mouth. Lips. The lips form the opening to the oral cavity and are composed of muscles, skin, and sensitive tissues. They play a role in speaking, eating, and protecting the oral cavity. Teeth. Teeth are structures primarily composed of dentin and enamel and are anchored in the jawbones. They aid in cutting, grinding, and tearing food into smaller, more digestible pieces. Humans have different types of teeth, including incisors, canines, premolars, and molars, each with specific functions in the chewing process. Tongue. The tongue is a muscular organ located in the floor of the mouth. It is crucial for tasting, manipulating food, and initiating the process of swallowing. Taste buds on the surface of the tongue detect different flavors, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami, and transmit sensory information to the brain. Salivary glands. These glands secrete saliva, a fluid that helps in moistening food to facilitate swallowing and contains enzymes, such as amylase, that begin the digestion of carbohydrates by breaking down starches into simpler sugars. Palate. The palate divides the oral cavity into the hard palate, anterior portion made of bone, and the soft palate, posterior portion made of muscles. The soft palate helps close off the nasal passages during swallowing to prevent food or liquid from entering the nasal cavity. Uvula. Hanging down from the soft palate is a small, fleshy mass called the uvula. It assists in speech and swallowing by preventing food from entering the nasal cavity. Tonsils. Located at the back of the throat, tonsils are clusters of lymphoid tissue that help fight infections. They play a role in the immune system, particularly during early childhood. The mouth serves as the entry point for food and is the site of mechanical and chemical digestion before food passes through the pharynx and into the esophagus. Chewing breaks down food into smaller particles, while saliva moistens and begins the breakdown of carbohydrates, initiating the digestive process. Food is forced into the pharynx by the tongue. When food reaches the opening, sensory receptors respond and initiate an involuntary swallowing reflex. The uvula is elevated to prevent food from entering the nasopharynx. The epiglottis drops downward to prevent food from entering the larynx and trachea in order to direct the food into the esophagus. Peristaltic movements propel the food from the pharynx into the esophagus. In swallowing, a small portion of chewed food mixed with saliva, called a bolus, is pushed by the tongue into the pharynx. Swallowing occurs rapidly by an involuntary reflex action. Peristaltic movements propel the food from the pharynx into the esophagus and then to the stomach. Esophagus is a muscular tube that carries food from the mouth to the stomach through a series of contractions known as peristalsis. Stomach. The stomach is a muscular organ that stores food and begins the digestion process. It secretes gastric juices containing hydrochloric acid and enzymes like pepsin that break down proteins. Food mixes with these digestive juices, forming a semi-liquid mixture called chyme. The stomach is situated in the upper abdomen, beneath the diaphragm. It connects to the esophagus on the upper end and to the small intestine on the lower end. The stomach has a somewhat J-shaped structure and is divided into regions. A. Cardia. This is the area surrounding the opening from the esophagus into the stomach. B. Fundus. The upper portion of the stomach that expands as it fills with food. C. Body. The main central part of the stomach where most digestion occurs. D. Pylorus. The lower part of the stomach that connects to the small intestine. It contains the pyloric sphincter, a muscular valve that regulates the passage of food into the small intestine. Layers of the stomach wall. The stomach wall consists of several layers. A. Mucosa. The innermost layer that secretes stomach acid and enzymes to aid in digestion. It contains glands that produce mucus, hydrochloric acid, and digestive enzymes. B. Submucosa. A layer beneath the mucosa that contains blood vessels, nerves, and glands. C. Muscularis. Made up of smooth muscle tissue responsible for churning and mixing food with digestive juices. D. Serosa. The outermost layer that provides a protective covering for the stomach. Functions. The primary functions of the stomach include: A. Storage. It stores food temporarily and releases it gradually into the small intestine for further digestion. B. Mechanical digestion. Muscular contractions churn and mix food with gastric juices, breaking it down into smaller particles. C. Chemical digestion. Stomach acids and enzymes break down proteins and other nutrients into smaller molecules for absorption. D. Killing bacteria. The acidic environment in the stomach helps in killing certain bacteria and pathogens present in food. The semi-liquid mixture of gastric juice and food that leaves the stomach to enter the small intestine is called chyme. Small intestine, divided into three parts, duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The small intestine is where most digestion and absorption of nutrients occur. The duodenum receives bile from the liver via the bile duct and digestive enzymes from the pancreas via the pancreatic duct. These substances help break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates into smaller molecules for absorption. Finger-like projections, called villi and microvilli, increase the surface area of the small intestine, aiding in nutrient absorption. Liver, the largest internal organ, located on the right side of the abdomen. It performs various functions, including bile production, which helps in the digestion of fats. The liver also processes nutrients absorbed by the intestines, detoxifies chemicals, and metabolizes drugs. Gallbladder, a small organ located beneath the liver that stores and concentrates bile produced by the liver. When needed, bile is released into the small intestine to aid in fat digestion. Pancreas, a gland located behind the stomach that produces digestive enzymes, lipase, protease, and amylase, and releases them into the small intestine to further break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Large intestine, colon. After nutrient absorption in the small intestine, the remaining undigested food, water, and electrolytes move to the large intestine. The colon absorbs water and electrolytes, forming feces from the waste material. The colon also hosts beneficial bacteria that assist in fermenting indigestible carbohydrates and produce certain vitamins. Rectum and anus. The rectum stores feces until they are eliminated through the anus during a bowel movement. Each organ in the digestive system plays a crucial role in breaking down food, absorbing nutrients, and eliminating waste, ensuring proper functioning and nourishment of the body. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe our channel. You will not miss our videos.